Hedon and the worst intro in the universe!
I am Daniel, artist for hire and illustrator of this image of Castle Grayskull. This is my Huion drawing tablet, my enabling friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me when I held aloft my magic stylus and said, "If I work for exposure, I won't make any money." And then, once I've held up the magic stylus, I'll have it flash and cut to me looking really cool and buff and badass and then I'll have it so that start the video. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Dan Draws. I'm your host, Frank Langella. Now for this episode I intend to redesign another one of my childhood creations, Wolfman. Any resemblance to any other intellectual properties is purely coincidental. Now, this one is probably going to be considerably more difficult than Stuntman from my last video, on account of Wolfman essentially being almost identical to Wolverine, with the main difference between the two of them being that Wolfman only has 2 claws on each hand, whereas Wolverine has 3. So, this is going to be a tricky one to redraw. Let's dive in. Okay guys, here we have the canvas set up as usual. You can see on the left hand side is my original drawings of Wolfman in his, all together, and in his Wolverine-esque costume. Now this once again is set to time lapse because the video itself is over an hour and this manages to get it down to 10 minutes for you. So you can see here I'm working in some designs. I've kept the mask. I wanted it to be a bit Wolverine-ish but not too much, and I've given him some sideboards as well. The hair has ended up looking a bit more Lion-o-ish than I'd intended, but at least it's not Wolverine. Now, the costume he's wearing, the outfit, I've sort of... it looks like Wolverine's shoulder pads there while the pencils are being put in. That's not how I envisage them myself. I think of it more like the jackets that Tyrion wears in the later series of Game of Thrones. So if you think of it like that, and they're not actually metal shoulder pads. Now, the V on his belt, even though he's Wolfman, when I was a kid he was a member of the V Squad, which was a rip-off of the X-Men, as you might have figured out. Now, the V didn't actually stand for anything because I couldn't think of anything at the time. I've decided no, it stands for Visionary Squad, because of the irony that there is a lack of vision in the creation of any of these characters. But the redesign was... well, I didn't really know where I was going with it, to be honest. Now, if you watch the full video, you'll get more of a sense of that if I upload it. But I opted to go for a sort of smarter hunter sort of outfit. I gave him those metal shoulder pads, and then I decided that they might actually work better with a cape, so you'll see that as it comes along. Now, I wanted to keep the claws, but I didn't want them to be like Wolverine's claws. So he's still got 2 claws in each hand, but they're part of a gauntlet, so each hand has its own gauntlet, with normal retractable hand claws as well, finger claws. And so in my head, this is where I was testing the belt to see if it would work better lower down, and then I decided immediately against it. Now, I was adding it in so that this sort of looks like... it started off looking like a superhero outfit, but by the end it actually looks more like something out of Dragon Age or something like that. It's kind of rather fantasy-esque unintentionally. Maybe it's because I gave him the cloak. If he lost the cloak, maybe it would have a bit more of a superhero feel to it. I'm not entirely sure. But there I was trying to work out little bits of the costume as I went and what would work. Your mileage may vary on if you think it has or not. I'm playing around with like padding down the sides as well, like the Star Trek sort of, not chevrons, but they've got the little badges all over the outfits. And I considered putting a wolf in the centre of the chest as well to show he's Wolfman. But then I figured that it wasn't really necessary. Like Wildcat in the JSA doesn't have anything that says Wildcat on him or anything like that. And but funnily enough, this character ended up looking more Thundercat-ish than superhero-ish. Maybe Thundercat meets Dragon Age. Yeah, and which is kind of funny because since he's supposed to be a dog, essentially, since he's a wolf. But I thought the hair on his head, along with the sideboards, might create the illusion of sort of like a wolf face, and I give him the sort of rugged sort of look. And as I was going, I kept playing around as well. Did I want his ears visible? Did I want them covered? I kept turning the layers on and off for the pencils to see if their drawing was actually any good, because lots of rough pencils can create the illusion that something is good even if it sucks. You can see me doing it there. And I went in with the inks hairpin organic sable from the Friend and Brush set. The Friend and Brush set, if you don't use it, I would highly recommend that you get it for Clip Studio. It's about $15 if the price is still the same. I mean, I bought mine years ago now, but I think it's $15. You get over 300 brushes, and they're really, really good. I mean, I have a few that I tend to use more than others that I really prefer, but they're still really good and they're worth the money, so I would advise that you get them. You see I'm putting in more of the details here and trying to decide where the ribs of the, these little things here, how they work, and adding in the patterns there so that it's a little bit more 3D. Then I was trying to decide whether or not I thought it would look better if he was a bit thicker around the sort of mid-torso area here. So I put the hair in on his arms, but this bit here I think I decided, yeah, see, I'm testing it to see if he looks better with thick, THICC. And I didn't really, not in my opinion anyway. I sort of like that over exaggerated style where his arm, each pectoral section of his arm is almost the same size as his chest, half of his chest, and so I like to think of him as like a chunky guy. So here I am moving the arm up because it was a bit too low, and it did work better then. I mean, it might not be a brilliant drawing, but the point is that I'm drawing these for these YouTube videos without any designs beforehand, without any sort of layout for how he's going to be stood or anything like that. It is basically literally just me winging it as I go. And I think some designs might end up being better than others. And then once you've done the one design, I know you tend to look back at it later on, or at least I do, and then think, oh, I should have done this there and I should have done that there. And I know I've done that with the stuntman drawing since I did that last week. But this one is pretty good. I think I might I'd still play around with it a bit. If I was going to develop the character, I would play around with it a bit more and change it a bit. Maybe he would be a sort of hulking character as opposed to having any sort of nimble element to him. If you think like a strong guy from X-Force more than Wolverine from X-Men, that sort of, I don't know, like a bruiser maybe. And now I've done all this rather quickly today as well, because I'm actually babysitting my nephew this evening for my sister, so I've tried to do this as quickly as possible within the time constraints before she turns up to pick me up. And the colour scheme for this, I decided I wanted a winter wolf type of feel. Since he's Wolfman, I was thinking snowy peaks. Maybe it's because it's Inktober at the moment. For the last 2 days I've done Game of Thrones characters, because the first one was snow and the next one was dragon. So I did Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. So maybe that's just stuck in my head, but that colour scheme is sticking with me. So I was thinking, like a snow wolf sort of thing. So I was going with that colour scheme. And the problem with that is I think it is quite similar to the colour scheme I used for Stuntman last week. And they're not even in continuity, but in my world they weren't even part of the same team. What with this was, I mean, I came up with the characters before Spider-Man joined, or Wolverine joined the Avengers, so oh god, did I really leave that leg that thin? Crikey, I think I did. That would need changing. For definite, I will be changing that before I finish the video, so that's definitely something that will need redoing, because that one leg looks way too thin. It's the funny things you don't notice at the time because you're panicking and you're trying to get everything done within a certain amount of time, but that leg's way too thin. Yeah, okay, so that needs editing, right. But yeah, like I say, it's funny the things you pick up when you're going back over and thing. I mean, literally as I was doing this, I was thinking, right, I've got X amount of time to get this done. I really want to get it done as soon as possible, and whilst having it look good. But clearly that leg does not look good. Maybe it is my eyes playing tricks on me, but it just looks way too thin, especially when in comparison to the other one, and there's no way you can pass that off as foreshortening. So there we go, learn as you go. So for the end section of the video, you'll probably see that has been edited. It shouldn't have been. I mean, that's just a terrible mistake. So now we're on to the highlights. I've added the shadows. It's got a very cold feel to this image, so I did a quick background that gives it the correct sort of, or rather the appropriate feel for something that is cold. Like I said, I wanted it to have the snow feel because of the snow wolf sort of thing. And I probably could have done more with the highlights and stuff, but I tried to give the sort of metal shine, well, a bit of a metal sheen to it. But yeah, I think this is almost done. So I come in now with some really simple, yeah, foliage and some snow. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much Wolfman redesigned. So I hope you guys like. Thanks. And there we go, guys, another one of my characters redesigned for the modern age. Now, I did go back to this and edit the head I'd drawn on Wolfman, and I also went and corrected the issue with the really skinny leg that I mentioned in the drawing video as I was giving my narration over it. So I've sorted those out, and then also went and did a action shot of Wolfman, because I figured once I got the design done, I might as well do a fun one where he was actually doing something rather than just stood there posing. So that was what I did here. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting me that way. A big shout out to all of my existing patrons, you're very much appreciated. There's a link below there if you want to check it out, and you get access to all the comics and design work that I do as well. And in my next video, I might look at redesigning a character that I created called Judge Punishment, which is essentially Judge Dredd mixed with the Punisher. And he is the leader of a team of 3 soldiers in total, including himself, which I may look at doing as a new superhero team. So that would be the next character design video I do. Anyway, I really hope that you've enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.